Hi, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, this time looking at a very inexpensive photo editor that rivals Photoshop. Well, not quite, but for $10 versus $700, I guess we can get used to the price range. This is Photo Plus SE Pro, and you can find this on the freeserifsoftware.com site, which is basically the bargain basement site for Serif software. If you're unfamiliar with Serif software, they make a lot of moderately priced software that's really quite powerful, and in fact they have a Photo Plus X3, which is version 13 now. This is probably in their bargain basement site version 6 or so, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it really does have all the tools that you would ever want if you're going to do any photo editing, unless you're really like working on a very high-end job or something like that. So let's take a look. We have a menu bar on top, and that's the standard menu bar. You can see we have drop-down menus, all the kinds of things that you'd want. If we kind of go along to the side, we see we have all the tools there, everything that you could ever imagine. And there's extras too, like a quick fix studio that's going to allow you to quickly go in and correct things like to straighten a picture or to adjust the color balance. There's also things like the filter gallery, and there's a lot of different filters in here. You could, for instance, blur a picture or sharpen a picture or turn it to black and white, or many different things like that. In addition, you have an Instant Artist feature. That feature has all sorts of filters that allows you to do things like, for instance, turn your photo into a simulation of an oil painting or maybe a watercolor or a pencil drawing. And you even have a very cool extract filter. All you need to do here is just draw around the picture or an object in the picture and extract it, and then you can use that extracted object in something else. So for instance, you could take a picture of yourself standing in front of your house, extract it, and put yourself in front of the Eiffel Tower if you so desire. So you have a lot of different options, but let's look at some of these tools. Of course, you have a crop tool. You have a deform tool, which is very, very useful for a lot of things. I use it for lens correction, which it works quite well, and we'll show you that in a little bit. In addition, you're going to have some other tools. So as we kind of move down, you're going to see that we have a selection tool. And that selection tool has all sorts of different options, the typical shapes. You can have freehand selection, you can have a polygon selection tool, and the magnetic selection tool, which is sort of an edge detector. In addition, you can select by color using the color selection tool. You have brushes of all different sorts. You have cloning tools, which can be used for, of course, many things. And, of course, a red eye tool, and more advanced tools like a smudge tool, dodge tool, and a burn tool. In addition, you have an eraser tool and some drawing tools like a text tool. And beyond that, you can use a line tool, which can also be a curves type tool. And you can also just generate all sorts of basic shapes. So you have a lot of different tools that you can use to kind of create whatever you're trying to create, basically. So that's a really nice thing. So now we're going to take this picture of Mabel the cat, who's very regal. She's sitting in a chair ready for her subjects, and we're going to turn this into a more old-fashioned picture by cropping it down and turning it into a sepia tone. So first we're going to go to Adjust and turn it into a grayscale image. Now we could do a lot of different things with this grayscale image, but we're just going to take it as is. And now we're going to crop it to make it a little tighter so she is there in her regal goodness. And now we're going to go back to Image, Adjust, and adjust the hue, saturation, and lightness control. And by clicking on Colorize, because this is a black and white picture, it instantly goes to sepia tone, but we could really select any color that we wanted to. I'm going to make it a little more yellow. I think that looks a little more old-fashioned. And I'm also going to drop the saturation down just a bit, which I think also makes it look more like an old-timey picture. And there we have Mabel the cat, and she's now very old and sepia in her coloration. With this particular picture of my kids, we're going to send this to the parents for Easter, and it's just a nothing picture, of course, but we want to make some corrections. We want to get rid of the red eye, and then there's a little sore under my daughter's nose, and then we want to brighten it up a little bit. So let's do that. We're going to first correct the red eye. Very simple. Just click on the red eye tool, and then we'll just draw a circle around the eye, and there, it's done. Very easy. Now we're going to go and correct my daughter's red eye. Again, very simple. And then we're going to go to my other daughter's red eye. And it's done. And it does a very nice job doing that. Now we want to get rid of that little sore, and we'll use the clone tool, but we're going to turn the clone tool into like a blending brush by keeping the opacity at around 50 so that some of the underlying structure and coloration shows through, and that gives a much more natural sort of look to a clone. It doesn't look like you just patch something on top of it. So here we go. Again, very simple. We're going to shift click on some nice skin, and then we're just going to go and do a few clicks. Click, click, click. And the sore is gone. Well, now we're going to do a little adjustment, and we could use the auto levels, but just to show you that it has curves, which is a more advanced way to adjust brightness and contrast and things, we're just going to adjust that up, make it a little brighter, and a little extra contrast. We're going higher on the curve, and now it looks a little bit too bright, so I'm going to drop the brightness down a little bit, and that's just about perfect. So now we have a bright picture that's been corrected in all sorts of ways, and we could also resize this in the program, which I'm not going to show you today. Here's a picture that's definitely out of proportion due to lens distortion. It's a terrible picture, I know, because it's off the internet and it's pretty pixelated, but we're going to use the Deform Tool, which we can use in a variety of ways. In this particular way, if we hold down the Shift, Alt, and Control keys, we can just deform the bottom of the picture, correcting this lens distortion. So we're going to do that, and that's going to do that bilaterally. And a little bit less. There we are. I think that's about perfect. Makes the building look just right. We're going to now crop it to get rid of that dead space. Very easy to do again. Say OK. And now we have this well-proportioned building. So as you can see, there are many things that you can do with this program. I've just touched the surface. I wanted to also tell you there's, of course, a layer function. With the layer function, which I should have used for these corrections, but I was too much in a hurry. But it's very easy to duplicate a layer, say OK here, and then you work on that layer, so you always keep your original copy in good shape. So if you make a mistake, you just go back to that original. Very, very easy to do that. So what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of this program? Advantages include the fact that it's low in cost, very stable, and all the filters and brushes are very high quality. You have all the basic tools that you would ever want, and it's very easy to modify those tools to mimic more new tools, like a healing brush, for instance. And of course, there's many extras like artistic filters and tutorials. And I didn't touch on the tutorials, but they're really great, and they show you how to do a variety of things. So for instance, you could easily, in this particular makeover studio, it shows you how to whiten teeth and smooth skin and remove hot spots and that sort of thing. There are also some disadvantages to this program, and that includes the fact that there are no additional applets, like there's not a photo organizer, for instance. And advanced tools like a healing brush don't exist, but we can create those pretty easily. There aren't any advanced features like high dynamic range or object removal tools. We can simulate some of those, but without using the features, it would take a little bit longer with this program. And this program will not do raw file format, which is something that high-end users might want. But of course, if they're interested in that format, I'm sure they're going to go for a more expensive program. And since this is a little bit older of a program, it's not going to utilize some of the new computer features like multiple processors, although I have run this software on both Vista 64-bit and Windows 7 64-bit, and it ran just fine. So it's going to be fine for the rest of us. So it's a great program at a great price. Of course, not quite Photoshop, but much, much better than something, or much more powerful than something like a Picasa or one of those entry-level programs. Anyways, hope you give it a shot for 10 bucks. Do not go for the free version. It's too stripped down. Spend the 10 bucks and get that little upgrade version. This is Dr. Mike. Have a nice day.